Most of the surviving World War II structures at Lepe Beach and at Stanswood Bay are connected to the construction of the caissons, which were codenamed Phoenix, necessary for the success of the Mulberry harbours during Operation Overlord. As one general put it, any army can make a landing, the problem is making it stick. Following the Allied conference in Quebec in 1943, the Ministry of Defence instructed 550 UK engineering contractors to build elements for 2 Mulberry harbours to facilitate the Normandy landings. All the components were designed and built from scratch in just 1 year. Although the American harbour at Omaha Beach, Mulberry A, was destroyed by a storm on June the 19th, the British Mulberry B was operational for 5 crucial months, unloading 2.5 million men, 500,000 vehicles and millions of tons of supplies. As the experience of Mulberry Harbour A was to prove, the key to the success of the operation was calm water necessary for the unloading of cargoes, and it was decided that concrete caissons should be placed end to end together with block ships affectionately termed gooseberries to provide a breakwater. Not enough dry docks were available for the construction of caissons, so alternative sites had to be found, such as Lepe Beach. The caissons were built on a production line along a concrete and wooden rail east to west, part of which can still be seen today. As each was completed, so it was moved towards the western end of the site, where caissons in turn find their own way down the single slipway and into the sea, much like the sideways launching of a ship. Longitudinal sideway launching is one of the oldest launching systems because it only uses simple equipment, in this case with a caisson using its own weight to enter the water. In the model, the production line or rails along which the caissons travel is visible. The caissons were moved on carriages supported by 3-inch metal balls. Part of the hard standing on which the caissons were built is still visible today, although under the constant threat of erosion. In the model it is high tide, and in the second picture a completed caisson is awaiting launch just above the slipway. The third model picture shows the vital trigger of the system, at which point the caisson is held in place until launch is ready, when winches stationed on the concrete blocks help gravity move the structure from the top of the step to the lower step and down the slipway into the water. The check mechanism blocks to prevent premature launch and the pits used to house the trigger release gear are still visible. Following this, the base of the caisson was towed towards a quay where it was completed. Hereafter the caisson was scuttled at a temporary location out of sight of enemy air reconnaissance. A short time after D-Day, the caissons were towed to Normandy by tugs and were scuttled in their respective positions within 22 minutes to form the breakwater. Another problem for Operation Overlord, foreseen by military planners, were bottlenecks on this side of the channel in a race to reinforce the beachheads before the enemy. It was critically important that the Allies could support any foothold quicker than the enemy could counter-attack. The solution was to avoid the major ports by constructing embarkation hards around the south coast from which landing craft could load at any time of the tide. To facilitate this procedure, dolphins were located in the water which acted as handrails to guide the vessels into position onto the beach. Flat-bottomed landing craft were not easy to maneuver in the best of conditions, but once moored alongside these dolphins, the landing ramp would be aligned to make loading and unloading more efficient. There were 4 embarkation hards in Southampton, where concrete chocolate blocks, as they were called, were also used for beach hardening and prevent heavily laden vehicles from sinking. The first phase of operation at Lepe during World War II was the construction site used to build the massive caissons necessary for the success of the Mulberry Harbour. Once this task was completed, planners used the redundant site for Phase 2 as a temporary embarkation hard during Operation Overlord to ensure that Allied troops would get to Normandy as quickly as possible. By this time, the caissons were already being towed to Normandy. In an article from the Royal Engineers Journal dated April 1994, the officer commanding an advanced construction and repair group during Operation Overlord makes the point about Mulberry Harbour that men landing, seeing what was prepared for them, went ashore with heads high. Those in the field were confident supplies of anything were easily available and that wounded would be rapidly evacuated.